Ready to go. Hello everyone, welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. It's Corey Sievers here, and we've had a fun time trying to get online. You know, ever have fun with the internet? Well, the internet had lost its spark, but we're actually going to be talking about whether you've lost your spark. So in this particular session, we're talking about energy, boosting vitality, dealing with things such as adrenal burnout and exhaustion, all that sort of thing. So if you've lost your spark and you're looking for ways to find it and boost energy and vitality, then you're in the right place. That's what we're going to be covering in this particular session. But, you know, ever have one of those interesting times when things just all seem to be strangely going awry? I don't know. At the moment, is Mercury in retrograde or something as far as technology? But we are here. Great to have you here. Looking forward to sharing with you lots of different hints and tips here on the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. So, look, if you are new to what we do here in the Savvy team and the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show, then we're here to help you reach a high level of health and lifestyle. And in this particular session, we are dealing with lost your spark. We can help you find it. And later in the Wealthy and Wise segment, we'll be talking about cultivating a positive mindset to improve your life. So when you connect in with our community, you'll have access to step-by-step action plans, innovative solutions, and all the guidance and support that you need to reach a higher level of wellness. And so here in the Savvy team, we provide action plans and guidance to really help you achieve your wellness goals. And so here's just an example of some of our wellness action plans, everything from the 10 Years Younger Challenge all the way through to our Better Digestion and Gut Health and Detox program. So look, we want to inspire you, motivate and guide you to that higher level of wellness. It is important to realize as we're going through this particular topic and delving into some issues surrounding energy and, you know, everything, just understand that what we deal with here on the show, as well as, you know, what we do here through the Savvy team, that, you know, that we are not in the medical field. We are an interested community really wanting to share wellness tips that we've found work for members of our community. And so all information shared reflects our personal research and experience and is for educational purposes only, so should not be seen as personal medical advice. The info is general in nature, and so of course all of your individual health concerns have not been taken into account, so any comments and experiences, whether it be from myself or members of the community, should not be interpreted as therapeutic claims. If you have any questions as to the appropriateness of the information with regards to your own personal health, do discuss this with your healthcare provider. That being said, much of the information we share here in the Savvy team is cutting edge, and so many healthcare providers have not been well read on this particular research. So we do encourage you to take self-responsibility for your own well-being and learn more on this topic and complementary medicine in general. But one thing we know is that if you want to improve something about your health and wellness, we can definitely guide you there. So look, congratulations for being with us here on the show. And phew, at the moment, I'm just trying to settle in here. We've had internet issues. I've had internet issues here, tech support, 4G down, not being able to log in. Finally, we're online here. So, you know, it's an interesting thing. We're talking about having lost your spark. And, you know, there are lots of things that can actually underpin energy problems, vitality problems, all that. So the excessive stress and all that sort of things. One of those things. But we want to delve into some of the root causes, not just the energy boosting things. You know, we all can reach for maybe a cuppa or an energy drink to boost our energy. Demonstration there. But there's something below that, you know, like we're not just talking about stimulatory things, we're talking about, you know, some of the root causes, some of the fundamentals. So if you've struggled with energy lows, coming home from work and being exhausted, not having, you know, needing to sleep in on the weekend to recover, maybe adrenal burnout, maybe even touching on chronic fatigue syndrome, then these are some of the things that we're going to be dealing with. We certainly have energy collections that we recommend, and we have energy boost plans. But what we want to deal with here is really some of the, you know, the fundamentals that are really, you know, that can really trigger wellness issues and in particular energy issues. So, Lost your spark? Well, we can help you find it again. Fortunately, we found the internet spark, and so great to be here sharing with you. So, okay, it's like, oh dear. Sometimes it can be very fun doing these live shows. So it's interesting, isn't it, when we think about, many people say, well, the reason that I'm tired and the reason that I'm running out of puff all the time is basically because I'm just busy. And so I'm just busy, and so I'm exhausted because by the time I get to the end of the day, I just need to sleep. And so, that may be the case for you. It may be that you live a full and vibrant life, and so you're just done by the end of the day. That may be the case for you, but it's not what we see for most people. What we see is that most people are giving the community members that actually put in our How Can We Help form when we have an intake for new members, boosting energy and vitality is at the top of the list. And what many people complain about, and you might be the same, is that often you have nothing left over for the good things in life. So you're busy giving your all to family and work, but you just don't feel like you've got energy for you to do the things that nourish and support your goals. And so, look, low energy can affect us all at some point. We have some funny things here. It means that there's a lot of memes that go on, how I feel at the end of every workday. Tired I am, sleep I must. And the very fact that these are very popular memes that get circulated around, GIFs get made of these things, and we laugh about tiredness, but it's a real issue. Tired, just so tired. What's disturbing for me is that we're seeing, we have a picture here of a young puppy tired, and what's disturbing for me is that we're seeing younger and younger people suffering from this exhaustion. And it's fundamental tiredness. It's not just I've exercised too much or I've just had a busy day. It's that, at a cellular level, we're run out of puff, so to speak. So, low energy can affect us all at some point, but it's different when it's sort of really deep. And that's what we want to help you to change here. So, this is as far as I'm willing to go today. If you ever feel like you get outside your door and you can't deal with much of the day, then I really do think that what we're going to be sharing with you will help. So, and it's not just about the energy drinks and the coffee and everything, like this funny picture here. Coffee didn't help, pass me the jumper cables. So if you've ever felt like, you have a cup of coffee or you have something sweet as a supposed pick-me-up and it's just not working, or it's making you worse because it's leading to chronic exhaustion and adrenal burnout, for example, then, we really need to uncover some of the root causes of these low energy levels for you. And so, if you do find that when you get home from work or whatever you're doing, and you just sort of can't even make it into bed before you're falling asleep, like you're falling asleep on the lounge or whatever, or, it's just, you just got nothing left in you for enjoying life, then we definitely can help. It's what we have to look at is some of the root causes, some of the drivers, some of the underlying issues, not just stimulating your energy. It's very easy to sort of think, oh, I'll take this herb, or I'll take that herb, or I'll drink more coffee, or whatever. And take it from me that can make things worse in the long run. So in my 20s, I was working long hours, was tired, drinking too much coffee. I was on a high carb vegetarian diet, and I ended up in adrenal burnout. And so I was just absolutely exhausted during certain parts of the day. And then I couldn't even find myself sleeping properly. And that's one of the damaging effects of adrenal problems. And the challenge is that you want to reach for more coffee, but coffee isn't the answer, because it then exhausts your adrenals, messes up other things, leaches more minerals out of your body. I'm a big fan of coffee, but again, everything in moderation, as the saying goes. So what we have to do is we need to look to some of the root causes that are at the heart of these energy lows. And when people in our community focus holistically, they often report, I wake up feeling more refreshed than I did when I was 20 years younger. And I don't even need as much sleep. Yes, because we've addressed some of the underlying things that are damaging your cellular function, your mitochondrial function, for example. And that's what we're going to be really jumping on into in this session. But, here in the Savvy team, we like to say that it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. And for that matter, since we like to say that optimal well-being, slowing aging, feeling your best, and for that matter, even boosting your energy levels could be as easy as 1, 2, 3. Because these are the fundamentals that underpin most issues today. So we need to decrease toxin exposure by reducing the chemical exposure from your diet and environment. So that even means changing to safer personal care and home care products and the things and sprays and whatever that you use in the home. Many people can suffer from multiple chemical sensitivity, and that can sap their energy levels. Right? And so chemicals, reducing chemical overload, very, very important if you are suffering from energy lows. But then we need to increase the nutrition levels, looking for the 90 nutrients that your body needs daily to function optimally. So it's a warning sign. If you're suffering from energy lows, that's a pretty clear warning sign that your body's missing something. It's missing the octane, like maybe you're trying to operate on low quality fuel and we need to increase the octane rating if we're using a fuel analogy so that you get more done. Maybe you're more of a premium vehicle rather than a standard vehicle. Maybe you need the 98 octane fuel, the high performance nutrition to get what you need to get done every day. So then we need to optimize the detox pathways and body systems. So there are a number of body systems that if they're not functioning properly because of the first two things we've just covered here or something else, then your body's going to struggle because sort of just like the branches of a tree, if we think of them as all being systems in the body, we need to nourish all the systems by nourishing the whole tree. So, it's almost like medicine has come down to saying, well, okay, if there's an issue with one of these systems, we might just chop the branch off or, spray the one branch with some sort of chemical. And whilst that may help in the short term, we know, like as gardeners, we know that we need to nourish the soil. We need to make sure the plant's getting plenty of light, plenty of fresh water and air and all that sort of thing. We need to actually nourish the whole system, not just focus on an individual branch or an individual system. And that's what we do here. We really want to optimize all of the body systems, not just look at it from a one at a time way, although our action plans focus on helping the systems more individually, yet it's still holistic. But when we're dealing with energy balance, and this is a system-wide issue, this is the thing, an interesting thing with energy problems is that there isn't a medication necessarily that can improve your energy woes because it's a fundamental thing going on at the cellular structures, the mitochondria even within you. So only really a lifestyle change can do that, because medications aside that are damaging and addictive, then obviously there isn't a medication that is medically recommended for energy levels. So that's why we need to really address things at the root cause. And so that whole tree analogy really does make logical sense. So we recommend our Savvy 90 nutrient plan, and this is made up of just a handful of different recommended nutritional products that mean that you get all of the nutrients that your body is needing to nourish the whole system. So it's sort of like instead of giving, just the basic fertilizer for the plant, you're actually nourishing the soil with all of the things that the soil needs and that the plant then needs for health. All right, so we're going to be dealing with 10 potential, just a sec. Got some issues going on here. Continuing. All right. I think we've got it under control now. So, what did we come up? Lost your spark. All right, so we're actually going to be dealing with potential causes of fatigue. And I believe I've come up with 15 of them to share with you. 15 potential causes of fatigue. So let's really go through these, delve into these. If you have any questions, of course, do ask, and we can, if we don't answer them live here on the show, then we can catch up or answer your questions at some other point. So if you want to ask questions, of course, if you're listening to this on YouTube, then of course, let us know in the comments. You can message the page, message your Savvy Team Wellness Guide, message us on Facebook, whatever way works, then we can answer your questions. But obviously the best is in the comments so that we can answer it for the benefit of everyone. All right, are we ready to go? Let me get a little bit hydrated here after the interesting time. All right, so number one is not enough quality fuel. This is alluding to the what I said before about the octane rating of your fuel. And your diet is not only what you eat, but how much of it you eat and the quality. So if you're eating processed foods, refined sugars, all the industrial seed oils, and not enough of the real food, then you're not going to get adequate nutrition to actually fuel your body. So while I don't think that everyone has to follow a perfect diet all the time, if you're finding that you're constantly fatigued and you have extreme debilitating symptoms of fatigue and just exhaustion at the end of the day, then trying like for example the Eat Savvy diet, a whole food, real food diet for 30 days, for example, can really eliminate those energy lows. It makes such a huge difference. I mean, we're in the business of helping people with nutritional programs, but just using the free Eat Savvy diet and following a 30-day challenge makes such a difference. And so what that does for people is they go, wow, if just changing my diet can make that much difference, imagine if I actually add in some nutrition to boost me up further. How well could I feel? And that's really what you can do. Just try. Follow the 12 steps on the Eat Savvy diet that you can access from our blog, and really even just practice for 30 days, and you're probably going to feel a lot better. One of the things too is when you cut out things by strictly following, for example, eating in the green in the Eat Savvy diet, and then you start adding things back in, you then start to notice your food intolerances. And that's one of the issues that we'll deal with soon in terms of that can reduce your energy levels. So the next thing is the quantity of your diet. So by the way, dealing with quality, processed foods is the number one thing to eliminate. Because one of the great things is when you eliminate processed foods, you're also eliminating grains, you're eliminating all the industrial seed oils, you're eliminating chemicals, and you're eliminating a lot of the extra sugars, all the processed sugars that end up there. So in one fell swoop, you're actually eliminating a lot of the things that we see that are causing problems. And then, of course, if you're eating more real foods, you're getting more nutrition from those foods. But that leads us to the quantity of your diet. Quality is important, but quantity also makes a big difference. So a lot of health conscious people can eat, often eat salads and lean proteins, but not too many fats. And they end up being on a very low calorie diet. And while that's fine in the short term, low calorie diets and clean diets tend to increase your energy in the short term. But if you stay on this long-term calorie restriction, then your metabolism can be, messed up a bit, and then it actually can downgrade. And that means that people feel like if they fear if they ate more food, they could put on excess weight. And usually that's not the case. Sometimes eating more can actually help you to lose fat, but the right foods. So that's why, for example, if you've ever seen our rapid fat loss protocol, which is our fastest protocol for losing fat, and so if you're wanting to shed fat for the summertime, the rapid fat loss protocol would be the best way. And that is more of a low calorie, low fat approach, because we're wanting to specifically, in a cyclical fashion, target your fat. And so in a short term, that works very, very well. as does fasting, by the way, but you don't want to stay on that. And this is the problem where they've seen, for example, they've done studies of the Biggest Loser competitions where they hammer exercise at them and give them a low-calorie diet, and pretty much most of those people are back to their overweight self in no time because the lifestyle hasn't been changed and the metabolism and the long-term health focus has not been taken into account. But our programs have all of that covered. So, but often community members find that when they increase calories with the nutrient-dense quality types of foods, not only do their energy levels increase, but they also actually sometimes lose weight. So again, work with us on that. Reach for the foods that nourish your body and that, get away from the packaged food. So that's not enough quality fuel and sometimes not enough of the right quantity of the energy-dense foods that are full of nutrition and things to really spark your system up. All right, number 2 is not enough sleep or not enough quality sleep. So along with diet, not enough sleep does, obviously tend to be an obvious cause of fatigue, but it's amazing how simple it is just to optimize your sleep. And many people unknowingly are getting quite poor quality sleep. So the amount of sleep you need does tend to vary from person to person, but most people need between 7 and 9 hours a night. And so let's say that if you need 8 hours of sleep per night and you're only getting 7, it may not seem like a big deal, but you're missing up to 7 hours of sleep every week. And so that can deplete your system and leave you low in energy. What we have found, though, is that this need for sleep changes when you're on a nutritional program. So many people who used to say, I needed 10 hours sleep to feel refreshed, feel just as good on 7 now. So again, that's a sign. Your body needs more time. Like it's well known in the bodybuilding arena, the more quality nutrition you give your body, the more it can recover from workouts. Well, it's the same sort of thing for you perhaps as a non-bodybuilder. Your body needs more time to recover from its energy expenditure or from a stressful day at work or whatever if the nutrients aren't there. So the easiest way is to make sure your body has a rich source of nutrition. And nowadays that is, ideally coming from a good diet, but supplementation just makes logical sense to us. Many people sort of say, well, I don't feel tired at night, and if I go to bed early, I can't sleep. And this is another reason why people stay up too late. And the problem is that cortisol levels at night can sort of rise and leave you feeling tired but wired. This is one of the challenges with people with adrenal burnout. They're exhausted through the day and in the afternoon, and they almost get a second wind at nighttime and then can't get to sleep. But this is where a wind down ritual and being very strict with lighting at nighttime makes a good sense. So, one of the biggest challenges that we see with sleep nowadays is devices, being on devices too late at night and all the blue light. Many people having, to save power and be good for the environment, they've switched to, switched to LED lamps. What have we got going on here? So a lot of people have switched over to LED bulbs, and that's toxic blue light. And really is like wakes you up. And so people are, if you've got the lights on at nighttime and then you've got a device on and you've got the TV on and all that sort of thing, and then suddenly you can't fall asleep, that's because of the lighting problem. So we recommend things such as the halogen lamps are a little bit safer, keeping things darker, avoiding too much of the real blue light at nighttime. And so installing something like Flux on your computer. I think it's Just Get Flux. If you Google that, the bedtime app, all of these sorts of things actually do make a difference to your sleep. And we do have some additional training and videos on getting quality sleep. So have a look at those. All right, so looking at this, the next one here, next thing to mention too is sleep apnea is another cause of fatigue. So this is where you're not, you sort of feel like you're sleeping through the night, but because of the breathing difficulties, you can sort of stop breathing multiple times through the night, and it wrecks your quality of sleep. And so there are some devices that can track your sleep. You can even Fitbits and that can sort of track the Aura Ring. All these sorts of things can track the quality of sleep, how many times you're waking up through the night, and that can give you a little bit of an insight into how well you sleep. All right, so a good way to assess your sleep and whether that's an issue is when you take a holiday, make sure that you get to bed at the same time every night and actually go to bed a bit earlier. And so, like get to bed before 10, do the same time every night, and see whether that changes things for you. Because often when we're on our schedule of work, we can allow it to mess us up. Really aim to sleep in a dark room and really see how much that changes your quality of sleep and your feeling of energy levels through the day. So they're pretty obvious when we think you're not enough quality fuel and not enough quality sleep. We get into some of the things that may not be obvious to you, and that's things such as dehydration. So we all know that water quenches our thirst, but did you know that it can, a lack of it could leave you fatigued? By the time you feel thirsty as such, you're already dehydrated. So, a lot of the times from a medical perspective, they say get more fluids into you. And so fluids are not water. So juice and think about washing your body or washing your car or whatever. So if you use soft drink, if you use fruit juice, if you use freshly squeezed juices to wash your body or your car or whatever, or the floor, it's not going to come as clean as if you use water. And this is the thing, we need to get plenty of water. If you use tea, fresh water helps clean you just like it helps clean the washing or the car or the bathroom floor or whatever. So most experts recommend about 8 glasses per day. You may need more if you exercise more or work or live in a warm environment. But if you're well hydrated, then you're going to notice that your urine will be sort of clear or pale yellow. And so if it's darker, you definitely need more fluids. So dehydration and not enough mineral balance together can really deplete your energy level. So drink more water and may improve your energy levels. And that leads us to caffeine overload. So most people, who use coffee or caffeine, use it to help perk themselves up. And in moderation, caffeine certainly does improve alertness. It certainly does improve energy, and is a very good nootropic. It helps to spark up the action of the brain and your thinking and ability to, your cognitive function. However, too much caffeine can then cause jitteriness. It can heart palpitations, increased heart rate, high blood pressure, anxiety, even insomnia. And the problem is that, just like having sugar as an energy boost, if you have caffeine as an energy boost, the effects do wear off and can leave you then depleted at that time. It can leave you crash. And so then you have more. And this is, if you are somebody who's been suffering with adrenal burnout, this caffeine, it can be a real problem because you do feel better after a coffee, but it really dumps you in a heap afterwards. And so we tend to recommend for those who are suffering from adrenal issues to sort of start to wean off the coffee. And that it's better to address some of the underlying issues and then maybe slowly introduce coffee. Now, another thing with coffee is that many people assert that there are the other things, the additives and the molds and the things in low quality coffee or instant coffee that can cause some of this jitteriness and anxiety and everything. So the best quality organic, preferably, things such as best quality organic proper coffee you can get is going to be better for you. Now, to take it to the next level, a lot of the times coffee beans are blended. So in other words, they blend them from Africa and from Ethiopia and from New Guinea or whatever. And so you don't really have any clear knowledge of the source, and these can be loaded with these molds or mycotoxins from the mold. And so that can leave you depleted as well, or can make you jittery, give you headaches, all these sorts of things. So the cleanest coffee, the best way to get a good coffee is to get a single origin, preferably high-grown coffee. It's a little bit of coffee snobbery for you in this caffeine overload. But look, if you do drink a lot of tea, coffee, colas, that sort of thing, then, or take medications or supplements with caffeine, you can end up resistant to the effects of caffeine. So caffeine resistant. And this can sort of harm your adrenal glands. And gradually, the only way is to gradually wean yourself off the caffeine. And then you notice, when you have it, you notice the impact of it. And this is the thing, you've become caffeine resistant. It's the same thing with any medication or any hormone in the body. The more that's there, the more the receptors turn down. So if you want it to have the best effect, just go a little bit easy. Again, there's that saying of too much of a good thing. Obviously, when you're withdrawing from coffee, I would suggest that you decrease the amount rather than try to go off it, or you're going to end up with caffeine withdrawal, headaches, and not going to feel so good. Not a good idea there, but caffeine overload can be a cause of fatigue. Now let's go on to trace mineral deficiencies. Now we're getting to some of the underlying issues that many people don't really address. So trace and macro minerals are important for really your inner spark, essentially, to fire up the spark plug of your cells. So many actions in the body rely upon mineral balance, rely upon minerals for their action. So adequate mineral levels and nutrient levels, for example, are essential for your actual mitochondrial function. And, this is specific nutrients really play a crucial role in ATP production, the energy production actually within your mitochondria. So again, minerals, trace minerals, it's the cornerstone of our supplemental regime. Just like for a tree, a plant, we rely upon plants for our minerals most of the time. And so since the soils are depleted and farming techniques mean that a lot of the nutrition is depleted in the foods, we're depleted as well. And that's been well documented. So obviously supplementation makes sense. Just like fertilizing a plant makes sense if it's suffering, fertilizing you makes sense if you're suffering too. So that's one of the things are minerals, really, and that's what makes up much of the fertilizers that we would give a plant. So let's fertilize you with trace mineral supplementation, maybe macro minerals as well, each and every day. Now the trace minerals are the really tiny ones that we only need a little bit of, and then the macros are like the calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, those sorts of things. So iron is actually only a trace mineral, really. We don't need a lot of it, but iron deficiency anemia, for example, with women, is a common cause of fatigue. And so the red blood cells carry oxygen through the body, and iron is the main component of those cells. And so, without enough iron, you may not be getting the oxygen around your body that you need. And so in particular, so women who are experiencing hormonal imbalance and, maybe heavy bleeding, they're at higher risk of these mineral imbalances. Same thing with pregnant women, can be at higher risk because the fetus is sort of sucking up as much nutrition as it can get a hold of and leaves you depleted. So, this is where having more of the for example, meats, tofu, broccoli, nuts, these high iron foods, green superfoods we recommend, trace mineral drinks. This really helps to support the natural mineral balance. It's not a good idea, in our opinion, to go for iron tablets or iron liquids because it's too much of one mineral. It is far better to follow, with supplementation, in our opinion, more of a broad spectrum nutritive approach. And so what we find is that green superfood supplementation, along with a trace mineral, naturally occurring plant-based trace mineral drink, really helps to restore that natural balance without giving too much, like without leading to a toxic level of iron. See, most of the iron is also in a form that's elemental. It's not really readily absorbed by the body. So the excess can then be stored in the tissues. And so, it's like even my original teacher in the area of iridology and wellness and all that sort of thing used to notice just in the eye, looking through iridology, he could actually identify in the end some of the. He was working mostly in the US at this stage. He could tell based on the color overlay in the eye what region of the states the person came from, because of the certain areas would have more of these elemental minerals in the water supply. If they were just drinking typical water and not filtered and all that sort of thing. So again, how do we, if you have too much of one mineral, what's interesting is that supplying the body with a broad spectrum of minerals actually helps to chelate that excess out. So we've seen people, for example, that are suffering from, mineral overload from hair tissue mineral analysis tests, actually take minerals and their levels balance out. So what we tend to recommend if you're suffering from really low energy levels, anemia, frequent periods or heavy bleeding, that sort of thing, is trace minerals alongside green superfoods. And so green superfoods like chlorella and spirulina, and if you're not intolerant to things such as the wheat and barley grass, that's helpful too. And so this really helps. All of the chlorophyll and everything in these greens really helps with that energy balance and the micronutrients as well. So what we've seen is that even people following a strict vegetarian diet find that their iron levels are perfect when they use that methodology, and they've never had to be on an iron supplement. So again, it's just a more natural approach. You don't have to be as worried about mineral balance long term and overdoing it. And this is the thing that sort of frustrates me a bit, that many people, that because we're in this science-based, evidence-based type of thing, a lot of research looks to only do one thing. So you can't use trace minerals. We have to test only one thing. Like, will iron make a difference? Will calcium make a difference? Will magnesium? It's not the way the body works. It's a stupid thing to try to test, because it's not going to work that properly, because even iron needs other cofactor ingredients to be well absorbed. So just taking an isolated ingredient is a dumb strategy. So anyway, my opinion there. So let's jump on into what other things can make a difference with our energy levels. And so that was trace minerals. The next one is B vitamins, low B vitamin levels, and of course especially B12. But B vitamins across the board, many people are depleted. We're in a stressed out, busy world, and that will deplete your B vitamin reserve. And so severe deficiencies with B12, for example, can also lead to anemia. And look, even a mild deficiency of B12 can cause fatigue. So B12 can be checked in a routine test from your doctor, although it's not always generally included in just the routine panel, so you may need to ask for it. And again, because our system is built on symptoms showing up, it's not built for prevention. The medical system, our system in the Savvy team, is built for prevention, but the medical system means that you've really got to go to the doctor with a symptom already in existence before the test is ordered. So if you go and say, look, I'm suffering from, if you are fatigued, then your doctor may test for B12 and test for thyroid and test for these sorts of things. But if you're not fatigued, then it's just not something that's ordered. So again, it's like the warning lights have to be going off on your dashboard, as we call it. The symptoms have to be there before anything's done about it. Whereas we believe prevention is so much better than intervention. So many people can be below the optimal B12 levels due to genetics, medications, for example, the pill, taking metformin for diabetes, proton pump inhibitor medications for reflux, for example. Might be even just digestive problems that limit the absorption of B12. Stomach acid issues, low stomach acid, being on a vegetarian or vegan diet is going to leave you at a greater risk for B12 deficiency and fatigue, because B12 is pretty much obtained from animal products in most cases. So shellfish and liver, for example, are the best sources of B12, and most people don't even have these foods. But otherwise, you've got egg yolks and meat products and certain fermented foods that do have B12. So again, B12 can be one of the causes. And not just B12, but all B vitamins. So that's why we just assert that vitamin B and a multivitamin supplement makes logical sense in our busy world, and people do tend to feel better. But what are some of the B12 deficiency and sometimes general vitamin B deficiencies? Fatigue, weakness, brain fog, getting stressed out more easily. If you've got real severe B12 deficiency syndromes, you might have tingling in the extremities. And so fixing your diet is going to be a good idea. Fixing your digestion is going to be a good idea. Like getting a digestive enzyme will help you to absorb the nutrition from your food. Getting a quality multivitamin, mineral, maybe herbal blend, that's what we use anyway, that's rich in B vitamins, can make such a big difference. It just doesn't make any, yes, we should get as much as we can from our diet. That's why we have the Eat Savvy diet. But it doesn't make any logical sense if you're already tired and fatigued not to begin on supplementation straight away to see whether we can boost you up in the now while you then correct your diet. Okay, so that's when nutritional supplementation really does have a logical and faster effect. All right. Number 7, worthwhile noting, if you are fatigued and you're struggling with low energy levels, it's really worthwhile noting, are you taking any medications that are going to do this to you? Because, it's interesting. This is an interesting one because many people do say, come to us, for example, and they say, so what have you got for low energy levels? Okay. Well, we have a program for low energy levels, and we have specific herbal things that can really elevate your energy. But here's the thing. We have a holistic focus. So we don't just want to say, take this energy boosting stuff like you'll find everywhere on the internet. We want to say, okay, is there something let's give you the energy boosting herbs, but is there something that's depleting your energy levels? Because if we can correct that, then the herbs aren't as necessary, and you can only use the herb. You can choose to use the herbs when you really need it. So that's what we mean. We have a much more holistic focus. Other organizations might just bang you on the herbs and not really look to address the cause. But this is where it's important, medications. If we're trying to overcome with herbal supplements the negative effect of a medication, it would be better for you to correct the issue that has led to the need for the medication, and then you're going to be good to go for a longer term, vibrant, healthy life. So what are some of the common medications that can trigger issues? Let's really delve into that now. So there's a number of commonly prescribed medications that can cause fatigue, and it is important, of course, that you do not stop taking any prescribed medication without first talking with your doctor. But if you start addressing the underlying cause, which led to needing the medication, then many times our community members have found that they're working with their doctor, that their doctor says, you don't need this anymore. And they're able to stop the medication. Sometimes your doctor can find an alternative that may not cause fatigue. So let's go through some of the medications that have been known to cause fatigue. Blood pressure medications, in particular the beta blockers. They suppress the nervous system. Statin medications that treat high cholesterol. They block energy production and can cause muscle weakness. And in my opinion, they're one of the most overprescribed medications on the planet, but we won't deal with that right now. The proton pump inhibitors, as I mentioned before, that are used to treat reflux and supposedly over-acid stomach. These can end up depleting your vital energy nutrients such as B12, iron, magnesium. So the benzodiazepines for anxiety can also, because they also cause a sedation and suppress the central nervous system, they can cause you to feel fatigued. Antihistamines for allergies can cause a common cause of fatigue is these antihistamines. And these also suppress the central nervous system. That's why many antihistamines say don't operate a vehicle because it can cause drowsiness, like significant drowsiness. So antidepressants are a common cause of fatigue. And, experts sort of suggest that the mechanisms of the fatigue is not fully understood, but obviously because a lot of these are acting on the neurotransmitters in the body, then that could definitely be linked to fatigue. Antipsychotic medications also suppress the central nervous system. Diuretics can lead to imbalance in electrolytes and can therefore mess up your energy levels. So all of these things, it's just a good idea to assess your medications and see whether they might be contributing to your fatigue, your tiredness, the general exhaustion. And some of these don't occur straight away. So it's not as if you take the medication and symptoms appear. They can be things that come over time. So if you do suspect, if you're on any of those medications and you suspect it's causing fatigue, just going to your doctor and saying, I'm tired all the time, your doctor may not think that it's the medication side effects. Sometimes it's worthwhile talking with a pharmacist and then also your doctor, because often the pharmacists are well aware of these potential side effects of the medications. So again, action steps: if you are exhausted all the time, you're feeling frequent fatigue, and you are on any of those medications, then discuss this with your pharmacist and doctor. And again, of course, do not stop any medication that you've been prescribed without consulting your medical professional. Now, if you're not able to stop medication, sometimes adding in the specific nutrients, so it makes logical sense. Because these medications deplete nutrition from the body, you can't eat enough to overcome that negative effect. So it's well known that supplementation can then help. For example, statin medication for high cholesterol is very well known to deplete coenzyme Q10 in the body. So therefore, taking a quality coenzyme Q10 supplement can offset some of the negative effects. So that's just an example. And that's even starting to be known throughout the medical community. So that's great to hear that the doctors are knowing the benefit of supplementation to offset the negative effects of medication, for example. The next stage is to realize that the supplementation if the supplementation can offset the negative effects of medication, maybe the supplementation can actually correct some of the underlying causes. Wouldn't that be amazing if everybody started to realize that? Topic for another day. Anyway, too much or too little physical activity can cause you to feel fatigued and worn out. Activity, movement improves circulation, increases endorphins. Overall, it helps to improve your energy levels, especially getting outside into nature, getting some sunshine, getting some fresh air. If you're just too exhausted and have extreme fatigue, then obviously getting more activity isn't going to help you. We have to look at some of the root causes there. But if you're just sort of feeling flat, not sleeping well, or you're sitting at your desk for long hours and getting tired and you're slumping, and that can deplete posture, can deplete energy levels too. So try exercising, try getting out and really doing things that can even wear you out by the end of the day, so you get good sleep. It's interesting that people seem to know that they have to exercise the dog so that the dog isn't up all night. They realize they have to wear out the children so that they sleep well at night. But somehow adults are immune to needing to use up all their energy so that they sleep well at night and then can wake up feeling refreshed. So on the flip side, so that's if you're not getting enough physical activity, it can leave you flat, fatigued, and that sort of thing. On the flip side, over exercising. So too much exercise combined with trying to, lose weight by being on a low-calorie diet that's not nutrient-dense can really exacerbate fatigue. And so this is an overtraining syndrome, well known in the gym world, but that can lead to adrenal dysfunction, nutritional deficiencies, and just general exhaustion. So it's just, you've pounded too much and the body could keep up with the recovery to begin with, but then it's like the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. Boom, there's a lack of energy suddenly. So again, too little or too much, both sides of the coin, we could say. But if you're not exercising, starting up an exercise program, walking, if you're walking, then increasing your exercise can really make a difference. Get moving, get out into the sun, enjoy the outdoors. Then maybe start a weight training program, those sorts of things. But if you're doing a lot of exercise, especially a lot of running, that can really jack up cortisol levels and leave you wired and tired. So again, you may need to, research is really showing the short, sharp, intense sprinting or weight training sessions that really boost energy levels without overtraining and leaving you in that depleted situation. Okay? All right. So now we're moving on to some of the more serious things. We have many people at the moment, becoming involved with our community right now that are suffering from adrenal burnout. And look, I definitely know how that feels. And so, as I said, I suffered from adrenal burnout when I was in my 20s, working 7 days a week, on a theoretically the most healthy diet that you could be on. A vegetarian diet, and I just wore myself out. Yes, I probably had too many carbs and I had too much coffee and all that sort of thing. But it was well known. I had all the symptoms. My mentor at the time in the health and wellness sphere, he could see it in my eyes. He just said, "Wow, I don't even know how you stay on your feet based on the signs that I'm seeing in your eye and the pulsing pupil and all of this sort of thing, which is a sign of adrenal exhaustion." And so he even said it's just a testament to your will that you managed to get through the day based on what I'm seeing. And so if you're like me and you're somebody that can just push through almost anything, understand that it still has an impact on your body. And eventually you reach that. We've had so many people reach that fatigue thing, whether it's chronic fatigue, whether it's just adrenal burnout or whatever. Suddenly your body goes, I can't take this anymore. I need some support here. And usually it's diet and nutrition really related. So there's some fundamentals. So adrenal dysfunction, let's just go through that because I know that we've had some questions around that recently. So let's just really look at that. And I'm not going to be dealing with this in depth. I just want to touch on it really. But lots of different signs of fatigue can show up here. And so this is sort of this tired and wired feeling. Sometimes you can feel exhausted in the morning, pick up middle of the day, then like let's say 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're just absolutely wiped out, and then you get a second wind after 6 and then can't fall asleep. That's a typical sort of adrenal pattern. And so, again, this can be your doctor can actually test cortisol levels. This is the main adrenal hormone and the number one stress hormone really. But blood tests are not the ideal way to assess adrenal function. More of the saliva testing is better. But we generally find that if you have the signs and symptoms, then being able to just take the action steps is what makes all the difference. So, what are some of the things that really make a difference for those suffering from adrenal burnout? Well, I would immediately start eliminating some of the negative inflammatory things in the diet. So follow the Eat Savvy diet and cool down the inflammation going on in the body. I would get to bed as early as possible, definitely before 10. Okay, so any sleep before 10, an hour's worth of sleep before midnight is worth 2 hours after midnight, especially if you're adrenally burnt out. So getting to bed early and getting to bed at a consistent time, having spent time with a little bit of a shutdown routine away from bright light and all that sort of thing is very wise for those who are suffering from adrenal fatigue. So really working with your circadian rhythm there. Getting out into the sun first thing when you wake up so that the sunshine, you're getting bright light to wake you up. And so, believe it or not, early morning light exposure actually is implicated in the whole release of melatonin to help you get to sleep late at night. So there's, we're not working in our modern world, we're not working with our circadian biology. And so if you're suffering from adrenal burnout issues, then you definitely need to work more towards that. Many people who have suffered from adrenal burnout have been shift workers that have, for such a long period of time, not worked with their circadian rhythm. You need to flood the adrenals, flood the body with B vitamins and trace minerals. Okay, really, really powerful there for adrenal burnout. And it's going to take time. It's going to take time. You need to get off the sugar, reduce the caffeine, definitely get rid of all the inflammatory food. So the Eat Savvy diet is very, very powerful here. Then we'll look for some of the adaptogenic herbs. And certainly they're all the things to address. What I've just gone through are some of the things to address the underlying things. But if you're suffering from adrenal burnout, the first thing we want to get you onto is some of the elevating things, the adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha and romania. These can help with the feeling now, help you improve your well-being and energy levels now, and whilst you then start to rebuild some of the issues that you're facing. So, it's all very well to go, I want to do it the natural way. It'll just take longer. This is all an all-natural approach, but it just makes sense to get you onto the herbs. And so that's really what I did. So everything that I just went through there is what I did to rebuild my system when I was suffering from adrenal fatigue and burnout. So you need to also look to build rest into your day. And, this is, if you're having trouble sleeping though, you don't want to sleep through the day because then you mess up your whole ability to sleep properly at nighttime. So, but again, build rest, periods of rest and relaxation. So the last thing that you need if you're in adrenal burnout is to go for long runs or, too much high intensity cardio that can further burn you out. So again, this is where you do more of the gentle stuff, but maybe some weight training and that sort of thing, but without going to extreme fatigue. You're really wanting to do things that will help to rebuild the body. So that's a bit of an action plan for you there if you suffer from adrenal fatigue. There are some deeper things that we can look at. So for example, if you're suffering from candida, like if you really follow the Eat Savvy diet, drop your sugar, all that sort of thing, you'll get on top of it over time anyway. But also if you're suffering from candida and leaky gut and all of these underlying sorts of things with, long-term sugar imbalances and all that sort of thing, this can cause problems with adrenal fatigue as well. So multifaceted approach there, but it's all there. It's just, and that's where our support and guidance can really help you if you've been struggling there. But all of those things you can follow, all of that, even without guidance. It's just nice to have some guidance every now and then. All right. Now we're going to deal with hypothyroidism. This is an interesting one. So the thyroid obviously is the gland that really regulates your metabolism and how fast your body converts, fuel into energy for all of your body functions really. And an underactive thyroid or hypothyroidism can cause fatigue, depression, weight gain, problems with hair, skin and nails, for example. And although a blood test can confirm if you have hypothyroidism, medically, they then tend to whack you on replacement thyroid hormones you have low thyroid, let's get you boosted up with thyroid medication. And that's not ideal, because we really want to eliminate some of the causes of the issue with your thyroid. And so often, thyroid function responds beautifully to a holistic focus. And so that's what we've really got to do. So what are some of the causes? Number one, we've got to correct the nutrient deficiencies, decrease stress levels for those with hypothyroid. Same thing with adrenals that I did mention too. So you may need to look at the stress, really following more of an anti-stress action plan. We have our stress reduction action plan, for example. You'll want to then improve the diet. So if you have hypothyroidism, diet is going to be big, because your diet is going to need to be lower in carbohydrates and anti-inflammatory. And that's what the Eat Heavy diet is about. And people respond very well on the Eat Heavy diet to hypothyroidism, especially if it's Hashimoto's thyroiditis and it's more of the autoimmune, and we can eliminate some of the immune triggers that can damage the thyroid gland. But anyway, inflammatory foods, these inflammatory foods and lectin-rich foods, this can create this autoimmune reaction that leads to the Hashimoto's, but it can also just generally deplete thyroid function. So low carb is very important here too, because insulin resistance is strongly linked to thyroid problems and is also proving to be the root cause of many modern health issues. So, we've got to get you off the sugars. Get you off the sugar. I would say if you have thyroid issues, it would begin an exercise program if you haven't already. But again, you don't want to burn yourself out. Detoxification is really important here. Getting rid of the offending toxins in the body. People respond very well to our detox program when they've suffered from fatigue and low energy levels. Whatever the cause, it may just be a buildup of toxins in the body, or it could be maybe impacting your hormonal system, maybe impacting your thyroid. So people respond very, very well. And then fixing leaky gut and improving the microbiome. So again, gut healing can really improve the thyroid function as well. So this is, again, it's not just thyroid stuff, but that being said, the green superfoods, supplements with kelp, more seafood, maybe then even having to take additional iodine or at least just natural mineral supplements really can make a huge difference to improving the thyroid. Interestingly enough, neurosurgeon Dr. Jack Kruse says that one of the benefits of cold exposure, like ice cold face dunks or cold exposure, taking cold showers, actually is because of it actually boosts up the thyroid. And so he's seen people who do some of the cold exposure just get rid of their thyroid problems. So again, I think you still need the nutrition to help with the natural healing there. So that's the hypothyroidism. Let's go on to the next one. Number 11 is underlying infections. Now, we dealt with this before. The underlying infections can also be what's causing, like a candida infection could be causing or implicated in your adrenal fatigue. Could also then, the adrenal fatigue and the thyroid, they work together, and they can both be messed up by those infections or deficiencies or whatever. But now it could be just an underlying infection. So chronic bacterial or viral infections can definitely cause fatigue. So often you'll have some of the things showing up. So for example, if you have a chronic bacterial infection, such as sinusitis regularly, or you're always getting urinary tract infections, or kidney infections, this is an indication of the chronic infections going in your body. Digestive things that go on, or gum disease. These are some chronic infections that can be going on, and you don't even really realize it. And you certainly don't realize that it's just that immune load that really is depleting your system. Gut bacteria and health, really important. So a good place to start with any chronic infection is optimizing your digestive function. So like just for example, if you don't have enough stomach acid, like if your stomach acid is low, or if you don't have enough secretion of digestive enzymes, you're not digesting your food properly, then food particles can then get through the system, can can sort of then lead to small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, and then that causes and that also, low stomach acid, all of that sort of thing, can lead to you not secreting enough bile, and so then you don't digest all of the nutrients that you're taking, and then you're depleted in energy, and the infections are there and can trigger all sorts of other problems in the body. So sometimes it can be simple. Sometimes people respond amazingly by changing the Eat Savvy diet and taking a digestive enzyme. Boom. Suddenly they've got more energy because they're getting everything from their food. They're getting better nutrient-dense food, and then they can start to correct the issues. Or it could be that the enzymes and the correction of the stomach acid, for example, are killing off the bacteria. Our high stomach acid in our stomach is supposed to be sort of like a disinfectant for anything that we're eating, so that the bad bacteria doesn't make its way into our system. And so if you're having this small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, for example, the SIBO, this could be just that you don't have enough enzymes in your diet and stomach acid. Could then lead to flow-on effects of infections and everything in your body. So, and certainly that can lead to fatigue. So, again, what do? We correct. It's hard to know where you're getting these sorts of things from, but if you are suffering from things that like you have chronic sinus infection, you have sort of chronic candidiasis or thrush or whatever, or kidney infections, bladder infections, this is a sign that you're not getting on top of some of this bacterial overload. And so we need to look at antibiotics are not the solution here, because they'll only make the problem worse in the long run, create resistant bugs and everything. We need to correct some of the underlying issues going on. Leads us to viral infections. So Ross River fever, Epstein-Barr, all of these sorts of things can lead to that fatigue in the system. And so, often an onset of a virus can lead to extreme fatigue. That's why when you get the flu, for example, you might just feel absolutely depleted. But these infections that are chronic can then lead to mitochondrial dysfunction. And so, even if you're over the virus, sometimes it can have lasting effects in the system and can trigger chronic fatigue syndrome as well. So that's why we need to not just get on top of the virus, but we need to rebuild the resilience of the system. And see, this is one of the issues that we saw, many, many years ago. And if you've done our winter wellness, 4 keys for winter wellness, we talk in there about the germ theory versus the theory of the environment being the key thing here. So many years ago, of course, with the modern medical advancements, they came across the germ theory. They really believed that it was the microbe, and so all these bugs, infections deplete our system, and if we just killed off the infections, we'd be good to go. Other experts at the time said, no, these infections are opportunistic. They're only getting certain people because their system is depleted. And it was pretty obvious, even with the plague, some people would get the plague and other people were exposed but wouldn't get it. So it's like logical that it wasn't just the bug. Obviously it was the bug, but there was more to the story than the bug. The people who didn't get the full-on plague were resilient. Their body environment was able to fight off the bug. And so that's the thing. If you've got a chronic infection, your body's environment is not powerful enough to fight off. Your immune system is not powerful enough to fight this off. And that can definitely lead to fatigue. So we need to, again, build up the resilience within the body. And you can't do that with another medication or a different medication or another course of antibiotics or whatever. No medications anyway treat viral infections, but herbs, nutrients, medicinal mushrooms, improving your immune system, this can all speed up your recovery. So we love things such as astragalus or astragalus, reishi mushroom, the other medicinal mushrooms. These all help to boost bovine colostrum. These can all really rebuild the general immunity in the system. So you might want to have a look at it. We have a free report on the things that build up your immune system, so you can check that out by visiting the Savvy Team website. All right, Number 12, insulin resistance and diabetes. So you may have been told that carbohydrates are where you get your energy from, and that they're the good, that's the good part of nutrition. Fat is the demon. Well, we've been told by the experts that we need to eat plenty of low-fat, healthy whole grains, and if we did that, lots of low-fat diet, more carbohydrates, the world would be a better place. So, in such a world, the experts say that there would be less disease, no heart disease, and no obesity. Well, the government statistics are proving that that is incorrect. Almost since we adopted the low-fat, healthy whole grain methodology, we've seen obesity rates skyrocket and heart disease not get any better. So government statistics that I've shared in previous sessions are showing that people are eating the recommended amount of grains and fruit, but not the recommended amounts of meats and vegetables. And that's just with the current pyramid guidelines. So perhaps we've been given the wrong advice. Well, we certainly believe that that is the case. So the truth is that overeating high-carb foods can really cause problems in the system, can cause insulin resistance over time, can then lead to problems with energy balance. So, overeating high-carbs foods can certainly prevent a higher percentage of fats being used in our diet. So if you're always... See, it's an interesting thing that people don't quite understand, that your body, the way your body works in terms of its the way it uses up the fuel. If you're drinking alcohol, it's going to burn up the alcohol first. Then it's going to move on to the carbohydrates. Then it might start moving on to fat in the diet or fat on your body. So it's only when glycogen stores are low enough, this is the energy stored in your body, the carbohydrate energy stored in your body, that your body gets to the fat. So if you're on a high carb diet and you're feeding your body like I was recommended when I was suffering from blood sugar problems and adrenal burnout, just eat 6 to 8 meals a day with lots of healthy whole grains, well, it was the worst thing I could do. Fortunately, I didn't have any weight issues, so people wouldn't have thought that I was insulin resistant metabolic syndrome, but in fact I did. I would assert that I was probably in pre-diabetes at that stage because of following the dietary advice I was given. What do you do? And that's why we say you've really got to educate yourself, because that dietary advice is still being told, even to diabetics, that you need to eat. We're dealing here with, if you're type 1, it's entirely different, but type 2 is not a chronic medical condition, can be eliminated, but you must change your diet. Anyway, insulin resistance and diabetes. So the challenge is that most people now are getting into this insulin resistant state and maybe making it to metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome, syndrome X, insulin resistance, this is a combination of disorders that increases the risk of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, many other diseases as well, increased rate of aging, because of the action of too much sugar on the system and on the cells. And fatigue is quite common. So diabetes is known to cause fatigue, whether it's high or low blood sugars. We think of when the sugar drops too low, you get fatigue. No, diabetics can be fatigued all the time. And so it's clear that we need to get all of this under control. So what are some tips for better insulin management? Well, the best suggestion is to really eliminate refined sugars. Keep your carbohydrate intake on the low side, especially refined carbohydrates. Generally, any of the non-carbohydrate foods don't produce an insulin response, and this will keep your blood sugars more regulated and help you to get more in control of this insulin response. Obviously, insulin responses can change from person to person, but nevertheless, you can even use glucose and insulin monitors, test your blood, your response to certain foods if you really want to get into it. But generally, most people, if they just go for low carb whole foods, then they're going to do better. You're not going to trigger the same insulin response, and you'll be able to have more stable energy levels. And this is starting to become a much more widely known nowadays. So this is something that we were first talking about nearly 15 years ago, in terms of reaching for more of the eat-savvy, low-carbohydrate type of diet, but now it's becoming a lot more well-known that reaching for more of a whole food, even ketogenic type of approach will stabilize your energy levels and reduce fatigue. So again, but insulin resistance is proving to be a huge issue right now. So some of the sound rules to help you to reduce insulin levels and insulin resistance and balance out your blood sugar are protein, making sure you're getting good quality protein, making sure you're reducing your carbohydrate intake, and making sure you're choosing your fats carefully, avoiding the hydrogenated oils where possible, reaching for some of the ones like that we suggest on the Eat Savvy approach, drinking plenty of water, increasing your activity, nutrient supplementation will make a difference, trace minerals, for example, chromium, zinc in particular, along with cinnamon. This can help. We use a blend that really helps to deal with your cravings and balance issues related to blood sugar. So they can really all help. So generally, a holistic wellness program, reducing your carbohydrate intake, will make such a difference to your energy levels, your insulin resistance, and even diabetes. So we do currently have an article on the blog about why don't we tell diabetics the truth. So why won't we tell diabetics the truth? And we're going to be curating a few more things there. So rather than doing additional articles, we want to have that one place for you to keep going back to and visiting. Now, in that particular article, I linked to a post done by a registered dietitian, Diana Rogers, where she asked the question, why don't we tell diabetics the truth? And so if you do suffer from insulin resistance and diabetes and blood sugar issues, then I really encourage you to look at that blog post that we have on the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise blog. And I encourage you to go across and read her article as well. Because we've since had comments and queries from people that are struggling with type 2 diabetes, and sort of they've been told that they need carbohydrates. And I want you to read that article and watch those videos that are on that particular page. Okay, so because it's a misrepresentation that diabetics need carbohydrates. So that being said, obviously the challenge with diabetes is that people don't differentiate between type 1 and type 2. Okay, so in most cases today, 95+% of people with diabetes are type 2. So we can basically say, okay, if you're type 1, you're working with your doctor, keep doing that. Maybe look at some of this information and think and work with your doctor on that, but it's an entirely different situation to being type 2 diabetic. Type 2 diabetes can be eliminated. Medically, they assert that it's a chronic disease that you'll never get on top of. And so we disagree wholeheartedly. It is basically a modern disease created by the food pyramid and what we do today. And if you want all of the background information from medical professionals, that's why we're putting together that particular blog post. So again, I would encourage you to look at all of that, not just take it at first glance, but really delve into the information. Because insulin resistance and diabetes is just rampant, and it is the root cause for many issues, such as heart disease. So if you found yourself fatigued by everyday activities, such as just doing the cleaning, shopping, climbing the stairs, fatigue and low energy levels can be one of the early warning signs for cardiovascular problems. So don't ignore that. Definitely get yourself checked out. We actually have a a session that we did called the 9 cardiovascular warning signs. And you shouldn't ignore these sorts of things. You definitely should seek help from your doctor to identify these things. That's not to say that you need to be on medication or have procedures or anything, but definitely the great thing about our system is that you can get yourself checked out, and if you're in an emergency situation, you can get that taken care of. Okay, we have a brilliant system for acute issues, but not so much of a brilliant system for chronic issues. Okay, so you have to take personal control when you're dealing with a chronic issue. Anyway, fatigue can be linked to heart disease. So it's a serious condition and needs looking at. So lifestyle changes, though, can make a huge difference. So once you know that you're stable, your doctor has told you, yep, all good, then again, a holistic wellness management process does make such a big difference. Here in the Savvy team, we have our Healthy Heart Challenge, which is all about really reducing some of the risk factors for cardiovascular disease, and also being on more of a nutrient saturation program here to raise up B vitamins and mineral balance and improve all of that in the body. That can reduce some of the risk factors and inflammatory things that go on that can lead to heart disease developing further. And so that's usually a 3-month program if people are doing it just as a precaution, anywhere up to even a 6-month or longer program. But what we have found with the Healthy Heart Challenge is that people who generally said that they were tired all the time and all that sort of thing just found that after 3 months they were like a new person. So like they noticed skin issues going away, they noticed more energy levels, they even sometimes noticed weight loss even though they weren't even trying to lose fat. So, again, it's a really good precautionary thing for everybody to do. With heart disease being the leading killer in the Western world, it's just a good thing to do every now and then. It's not, and do it in conjunction with the Eat Savvy approach, really lowering insulin levels, really lowering your carbohydrate load so that we're reducing some of that, the inflammatory aspects of a high-carb diet. All works really, really well, and people come out at the end of that program feeling better. Now, that's not necessarily fixed up any markers for cardiovascular disease, but certainly feeling better is a good sign. So that's what we just recommended as a great precaution for people. If you really want to know for sure if you've got coronary artery disease, then we recommend getting a calcium score, a coronary artery calcium score, which is basically a CT scan of the coronary arteries, looking for the buildup of plaque. It doesn't find soft plaque, but it is looking for the calcification. So it is absolutely shows disease there. And so then if you do show up with that, then of course there are some things to do. But again, if you're concerned about that, it is far more. If you're concerned about heart disease, it is such a more profound way of knowing whether you have an issue or not than the typical markers such as cholesterol and all this sort of thing. So again, coronary artery calcium score. Depending on where you're coming in from, you could reach out to us and we can point you in the direction of the people that we recommend, because although it's widely available, sometimes doctors won't recommend it. It's not something that's covered on the system here in Australia, so you will have to pay for it, but it's an inexpensive test, about $150. And so if you are at high risk, women over 50, men over 40, good idea to get a coronary artery calcium score. And then, follow some of the advice that we have here in the Savvy team, do the Healthy Heart Challenge, all those sorts of things to reduce your risk anyway. All right, let's move on past heart disease and to food allergies. Food allergies and intolerances that are not addressed are one of the major or a key driver of fatigue. So food allergies can definitely deplete your body. Certain foods can even contribute to chronic fatigue syndrome. So you've probably noticed this. You already know that if you have a big carb load, you feel fatigue. Well, that's a clue. But also you might notice that after eating certain foods that you might be intolerant to, your energy levels go down. Now, this is well known. Dr. Arthur Coker put together the Coker pulse test, which is basically just, he was an immunologist from the 20th century, and he studied that the pulse accelerates after ingesting an allergen, and something that's an allergen for you. And he developed a way of testing to pinpoint how the body reacts negatively to foods. So it's pretty simple. It's basically like you can test, we've done things such as we've trained people in using kinesiology or muscle testing to be able to test foods that they might be intolerant to. The pulse test, you could say, is more absolute. What Dr. Coker found, that is, if the person if you did a baseline pulse test before you'd eaten anything, and then you chewed on a food but spat it out, chewed on a food that you thought you were intolerant to, and then took your pulse again and then spat it out, for example, and you took it while it was in your mouth, took it after you'd chewed it. If your pulse, while you're in a relaxed state, if your pulse went up by 6 beats a minute more, you were intolerant to that food. And so it was basically an excitatory response on the body to this intolerance. So, you'd be chewing on a lot of food to test that. You can get allergy testing done, extensive and often expensive allergy testing done. And yet if you're worried about that and you think a certain food is a problem, you can do your own testing with the Coker Pulse test. So if you want, his book now is in the public domain and can be accessed. So if you want to access that, just message us and we can make sure you have a copy of that. But what we also use is our bioinfluence report hair analysis tests. Now, while this is not an intolerance or an allergy, it actually pinpoints from an epigenetic sense what's currently impacting your body. And so because your body is always changing and exposed to all sorts of different environmental influences, what happens is you might still have an intolerance and allergy to certain foods, but other things could be too much for your system at this point in time, in this 3 to 6 month point in time. So the bioinfluence analysis is a simple hair test, so a non-invasive and non-expensive test that can really show you what things your body isn't really liking at this particular point in time. So can be very, very powerful. All right. So that's food intolerances. So obviously, if you know that you have an intolerance to gluten, if you know you have an intolerance to dairy, then you've probably already recognized these symptoms. So you're going to be much more energetic if you just don't eat these things. Eliminate. Sometimes we can be addicted to the very things that are damaging our body. So really work with us on that. Maybe we can help with supplementation to curb the cravings that lead to that. All right, number 15 is mitochondrial dysfunction. Your mitochondria are like the cells, your cells' batteries. They produce ATP, which is what your body uses for energy. And so mitochondrial disease is quite rare, but mitochondrial dysfunction is not rare. And this is where your body basically can't produce the energy that it needs. And so how the mitochondria works exactly and how it can have this reduced function isn't clearly understood, but it is one of the main causes of chronic fatigue syndrome, experts believe. So the symptoms can be wide and varied, and so it's not as easy to identify, but certainly poor recovery from exercise, muscle weakness, sleep issues, neurological problems, low energy levels with no explanation, all really feeling a lot older, looking a lot older, all mitochondrial dysfunction. And that's why I've shared in other sessions that they did tests with rats that they took tired old rats that couldn't be bothered getting on the treadmill, couldn't be bothered running through the maze looking for food. They gave them nutrition, and within a month, they're running around like young rats. They were acting like younger rats. So if you want to act a bit like a younger rat, then nutrition. We need to get you on some nutrition. So key nutrient deficiencies that lead to mitochondrial dysfunction are things like what we've mentioned: trace minerals, B vitamins, antioxidants, coenzyme Q10. These are all important for mitochondrial function. You'll also want a quality diet that's low inflammatory foods, like the Eat Savvy approach. This is going to be important as well to mitochondrial function. So, and to getting on top of mitochondrial dysfunction. So if you have lost your spark and you want to find it again, then I hope that information really helps. Now, a couple of other things that I'd like to note in terms of the things that can also lead to fatigue that I didn't include in these potential causes are things such as, what I write down, just want to find what I was, so something that they refer to as chronic inflammatory response syndrome. Now, this is often referred to as sick building syndrome, multiple chemical sensitivity, these sorts of things. And this can be caused by exposure to, exposure to chemicals. This is why I said the number one thing that you can do to improve your energy levels is to turn off the toxic tap from all avoidable sources. So they call it chronic inflammatory response syndrome, or sick building syndrome, or multiple chemical sensitivity. These sorts of things are all thrown around, but essentially you're exposed to so many chemicals that it's overloaded your system, or you're exposed to things such as molds. So mold, or for example, even Lyme disease, a tick from a bite from a tick, so giving you Lyme disease. This is all sort of in part of this one syndrome. So if you're exposed to a lot of mold from old water-damaged buildings, or chemicals from state-of-the-art new buildings, many people end up with this exhaustion syndrome, and it's just an overexposure to chemicals. Now, I do believe that it's probably simply impacting all of these other systems of the body that we've dealt with. Could be overloading your liver, could be messing up your mitochondrial function. So there's lots of different, they call it a syndrome when they don't know the exact cause, but ultimately the root cause is the damaging effect of these chemicals or toxins, mycotoxins, etc. So the first step is to look at where you could be exposed to this, whether it's at home or at work. Sometimes it's not obvious. Could be a leaking dishwasher, it could be a leaking sink or whatever that's creating mold behind the wall. And if you suspect that it's mold toxicity, then there are some tests that can assess your immune response and inflammation levels. Not so easy to obtain here in Australia, but that's where our bioinfluence report hair tests can help. A lot of people have said, why is mold showing up in my hair test? I don't see any mold, and yet when they've had their place tested or whatever, they've found that there's mold somewhere as an exposure. And this has, sort of triggers a chronic immune response and chronic inflammation, which then damages the mitochondria, etc. So, again, wherever we can turn off the toxic tap, it makes such a big difference. Now, again, chemicals, overexposure to chemicals, and sometimes overexposure to EMF, so electromagnetic frequencies. And this shows up a lot in the bioinfluence report hair tests we do. So many people are being just hit by all of their systems not recovering well from exposure to all of these electromagnetic frequencies. How do you help your body cope better? Interestingly enough, lots of minerals, green superfoods, those sorts of things actually help to protect your body from that exposure. Obviously, the more you can restrict usage of these frequencies, the better, but we're living in a modern world. What can we do? If you really do think that your home or workplace is an issue, we do have access to high-tech modulation devices, so we can point you in the right direction there as well. Then we have another one like chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, for example, are conditions that sort of cause persistent fatigue, unexplained fatigue, and often, if this interferes with daily activities for 6 months and it's been chronically there, that's when you may be diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, meaning They don't know the exact cause. If it's a syndrome, they haven't pinpointed the exact medical cause. And then, of course, fibromyalgia is there too. But far from being something that nothing can be done, like medically, they say it's an incurable condition, and yet we've seen people bounce back from that. But they do have to tackle a very holistic and, serious lifestyle change. Reducing all avoidable toxin exposure, toxic metals, endocrine disrupting chemicals, molds, avoiding all food intolerances, might be lectins in the diet, mycotoxins, all processed food, addressing gut imbalances like candida, addressing the thyroid imbalances like we've spoken about, vitamin and mineral deficiencies, addressing any leaky gut or SIBO or digestive problems there, and then looking at the adrenals and the thyroid and all that sort of thing. And so when you address all these sorts of things, you can really bounce back. Again, it's holistic. Sometimes we can be so zoomed in on the issue that we don't see the forest for the trees. We need to zoom back and look holistically, and that's what our programs are designed to do. Some people nowadays, from genetic testing, are looking at some of the gene mutations that can deter your ability to detoxify. So that's available too. You can really dig further into it. But we find that most people, with everything we've covered, get on top of their fatigue. So it's just a matter of if you want some help, we can work with you on that. Now, I did do a talk that we have on our YouTube channel. I think the one on the Facebook page was glitchy, but it was Boost Energy, How to Improve Your Vitality and Beat Fatigue. And I went through our 3-step action plan, really. So what I've been going through here are 15 things, that are really part of all of this. But if you want to follow it through, then you may want to see that particular video. But what I'd like to do is just go through this generally for you right now. And if you'd like to tackle the action plan for yourself personally, then reach out to us and let's get you started. So in essence, the first thing is we have we basically have boost, balance, and build. So first of all, we'd look to boost your vitality and energy in the short term with some specific solutions, such as we recommend herbal blends that contain, for example, the cordyceps mushroom, the reishi mushroom. Now we have an article on our blog about the benefits of cordyceps, so you might want to look that up. Also, adaptogenic herbs such as ashwagandha and astragalus, really, really powerful for getting you back on track and boosting up your energy levels. Sometimes some of the more boosting things, so for example, green tea extract and coffee bean extract can help you with a bit of a short-term boost along with the micronutrients that help you as well. Then looking at B vitamins, trace minerals, all of those sorts of things specifically to boost you up, and even acai berry. So we utilize an energy drink that has acai berry and green tea extract and all of this in there, and some B vitamins and other fruit juices to really elevate energy, and that's just amazing. But again, it's we also, if you're suffering from energy lows, we want to correct the long-term imbalances, not just boost you up, but boosting you up in the short term, powerful, helps you feel better, and you can get on with your day. Then we need to look to balance. In other words, restore the underlying deficiency. So this is balancing up the positive and the negative bio-influences of your body. So decrease toxin exposure, increase nutrition, and then look at your diet and lifestyle change over time to really balance up your systems. As part of balance here, we could say that doing a periodical detox is worthwhile. Here is where we really encourage you to reach for the Savvy 90, which is the 90 nutrients that your body needs each and every day for optimal function. You might want to look at your gut and digestion in this balance to really balance things out and reduce inflammation through diet and supplementation. And then we move on to the third step, which is build. And this is where you're really looking over time to rebuild your inner well-being through diet and supplementation. So looking at stress levels, looking at sleep and exercise, looking at general diet, following the Eat Savvy diet, getting more nutrient-dense foods, bringing in antioxidants and omega-3. Maybe if you've got hormonal imbalance going on, we can balance things up there, and that can improve your energy. Building in more metabolic flexibility and the reduction of insulin resistance so that you're able to use fat for fuel. Because a lot of people are exhausted because when their body runs out of carbohydrate stores, they get hungry and they need to eat more carbs. Well, you'll have much more stable energy when you can build in metabolic flexibility, retrain your body to easily burn fat for fuel. You'll not only look better and lose excess fat, but you'll have more stable energy levels as well. And that's where you may experiment with things such as fasting to stimulate the natural autophagy in the body, which is the cleaning up, the rejuvenation at a cellular level. Some other things too that that we can input as part of this particular build session is the morning ritual. People with a morning ritual tend to be more energetic people. So we have our Wake and Be Savvy morning ritual, which is an acronym that goes through some things that you can do just to set your mindset up for the rest of the day. Okay, not so much. So that's more of a personal growth thing rather than a morning supplement ritual as such. Having a wind down ritual at night so that you get to sleep at a consistent time and get good quality sleep. That's really important too. So when you switch the lights out or when you switch things down to low, when the computer goes onto more of a yellow mode, or if you use like blue blocker glasses when you put them on, just so that you can really work more with that circadian rhythm to improve your sleep cycle. And then again, there's the light and EMF issues as well, dealing with that over time. So boost, balance, and build. And so, one of the easiest ways to really start to make changes is to follow this simple Eat Savvy philosophy. It's not rocket science when you think about it. You know that there are some ways of eating and types of foods that aren't good for you, that you want to avoid. They're what we call not savvy. And the foods that are healthy, that are savvy. Now, it can be tricky because many of the foods that you think of as healthy are actually, potentially problematic for some. So we have everything on a sliding scale. So that it's not cut and dry. The more that you're suffering from energy problems, the more you'll want to eat in the green. But, if you just want to start to boost things up, then it doesn't matter if you're also in the neutral territory in there in the middle. But you certainly want to avoid going towards the left-hand side of the spectrum because they're going to be the energy-sapping, health-robbing foods. So the more you can stack your lifestyle and dietary habits on the upside of the spectrum, the better for you. And it's really just a matter of decreasing all of the man-made and natural toxins that can deplete your energy levels and increasing all the micronutrients that your body needs from diet and supplements. So if you want to learn more about the benefits of trace minerals, then we have on the blog this trace minerals, the sparks of life, so you can read up on that. And also you can look to download the Eat Savvy diet and look at the 12 steps. That's on the blog as well. So if you want to take the Eat Savvy diet to the next level and really spark up your energy, then we encourage you to, I'm not going to go into this now, but we encourage you to eat in accordance with your blood type. And because that's just a really simple way of you being able to know how your personal body reacts with certain foods. So, if you haven't done extensive genetic testing to find out, and nutrigenomic testing to find out your nutrient, gene matchups, what's best for your genetic potential, and you haven't done our bioinfluence report yet, then just find out your blood type. Give blood at the Red Cross and find out your blood type, and then eat in accordance. So reach out to us and we'll send you back the cheat sheet for your blood type, and that way you can follow that. And that's basically what, in essence, the Eat Savvy diet helps you to eliminate the things that are problematic for most people and then you can fine tune it. Because what happens is you'll notice that your system is more susceptible than others to certain foods. So it may not be an intolerance or an allergy, but if you can eat in accordance with your history, with your genetic history, then you can more likely reach your genetic potential. So that can be helpful too. If you haven't found out about our bioinfluence report, then you can reach out and we can send you a brochure and the sheets on that. But what's great is it can find out the systems of your body that are under load, the foods that you should restrict, and give you very distinct priorities over the next 90 days. So it really gives you the relevance of what you need to focus on, because sometimes it can be hard to know what exactly should I focus on for the next few months. Again, follow the general recommendations that we've outlined, and then if you want to get more specific, then one of the things like that we've just mentioned can really help. So for your best wellness journey, we know you need a plan, you need some specific solutions, you'll want some guidance along the way and a community to tap in with, and that's what the Savvy team offers you. So I'd encourage you to request an invitation, and as part of the process, I would encourage you to fill out the How Can We Help survey so that we know exactly what your key concerns are right now. And that's a confidential survey, just so that we can know what to point you in the direction of, what information we can share with you. What we'll then do is invite you into our private Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Facebook group and begin the process there of pointing you towards things that can help. And once you're a full member of the community, you'll have access to our private website as well. So if you have any questions about what we've covered and how to take action, that's what we're here for. So if you already have a Savvy Team Wellness Guide, then they'll be glad to assist you. Otherwise, again, reach out and become part of the community. Because we know that if there's something that you would like to improve about your health and wellness, then we can definitely guide you there. Look, it's interesting. I'll leave you with this particular thought about today. I choose to be healthy, and we're dealing here with obviously energy lows and all that sort of thing. And it doesn't sometimes feel like that you choose to be energetic, but you do. Like each and every lifestyle choice that you make moves you towards being a high energy person or a low energy person. But also, when you look at the work of Tony Robbins and all that sort of thing, where he talks about posture and, power poses, and just the way that you move yourself can change the way you feel. Like if you're slumped down like this, you don't feel as energetic as if you improve your posture and you stand up straight and you feel good there. So each and every day, you can make the choices in the way you think, the choices in the lifestyle, things that you practice, the choices in the food and the supplements you take to really move you towards that high level of wellness. And that's why today I choose to be healthy is such a powerful statement. So congratulations for making it this far in the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. Thanks for being with us. That's it for Healthy. We're going to move on to the Wealthy and the Wise segment here. And if you have just joined us, it's Corey Sievers here from the Savvy team. Welcome along. We're all about helping you enjoy improved health and lifestyle. And in the Wealthy and Wise segment, I wanted to cover with you some tips to help you cultivate a positive mindset and improve your life. Sound like a plan? Because, whether we've been talking about improving your energy levels or improving your general outlook on life, if you change nothing changes. So, sorry if that gets a little bit in your face and everything, but, having more of a positive outlook on life and cultivating that positive mindset definitely rubs off on energy levels, okay? And so, but it's a little bit of an interesting one, isn't it? When we deal with Maslow's hierarchy of needs and everything, it's like, well, I don't care about my positive outlook on life, I just don't have any energy. And so what we find with many community members, when they do address their underlying wellness issues, they feel more positive about their life. They can do more things, help more people, be involved more in the community, care about their family. Not that you don't care about your family, but if you're just exhausted and run down, you're just trying to get through the day. So, what's going on in the lives of the people around you take second place to you just being able to get through the day. Whereas when you're vibrant, alive, feeling good, you get to the end of the day and you still have energy. The weekends, you have energy to jump on the Healthy Wealthy Wise show and then do some good things in the things that you enjoy. Then, when you've improved your energy levels, you can contribute more, you can be more, you can enjoy more, you can live life to the full, as we like to say. So, but it's interesting that it is holistic. We're very, very focused on holistic wellness here. And sometimes changing your mindset can allow you to attract more of the ideas or have the gumption really to make the lifestyle changes that we've talked about in the healthy section of this show. So, which comes first? The change in mindset that leads to the change in energy levels, or the change in energy levels that leads to the change in mindset? It's the chicken or the egg scenario here. So it doesn't matter where you start as long as you get started. So let's look at these 10 tips, but they're just generally tips. I think there might be 10, but these are tips to help you cultivate a positive mindset and improve your life. So I love what Buddha said. Buddha quote from Buddha here: "Every morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most." So what we do today is what matters most. So how's your general outlook on life? Generally positive or generally negative? Chances are if you're generally negative, you're probably not here on the show. But if you are, I would like to say congratulations for breaking outside of your comfort zone and saying, righto, I need to make a change. But are you specifically positive with clear directions in what you're wanting to do in life? Or perhaps you're bogged down and buried in the doubts and fears. So you're what we might call specifically negative about what's going on in your life. So it is something that we notice, that even though a session like this could really help someone when they're bogged down in life, sadly, those who are troubled don't jump on. And yet the personal growth, tapping in with supportive community, tapping in with things, when you're struggling, that's when you need it most. Okay, so that's why we have the Are You Okay days and everything for people with depression and everything. And you don't have to have depression to be struggling with things and being buried in the negative doubts, worries and fears. But unfortunately, when you're there, you don't tend to jump on this positive stuff because you're just not there, and yet that's when you need it most. You need to sort of like break out of that rut. And when I first came across the book by James Allen, As a Man Thinketh is what it's called, it was both a great uplifting experience and a bit of a challenging one, you could say, because I've always been interested in self-improvement, positive growth, development, all that sort of thing ever since I was a teenager when I first started reading self-improvement books. But this book sort of challenged me. A lot of books have all the how-tos and the things to focus on everything, so they just share the positive side of things. But this one really challenged me because he says, so James Allen said, on one hand, let a man, and this is not a man and not a woman, he doesn't mean man and not a woman. Obviously, it's the original language written where it's just man. So ladies, work with me. I'll quote directly from James Allen. Let a man or woman radically alter his thoughts, and he will be astonished at the rapid transformation it will effect in the material conditions of his life. So you change your thoughts, and you will be astonished at the rapid transformation in what's going on around you, in the actual circumstances of your life. Change your thinking, change your life. He also said, your circumstances may be uncongenial, but they will not long remain so if you can but perceive an ideal and strive to reach it. So, I'm going to dissect some of those comments in a little bit, but I found it both empowering and hopeful that we can take in control of our life and we can change things astonishingly fast. That sounded great to me. I love the sound of that. You might like the sound of that too. And then I digested this next bit and some of the other bits that he wrote in the book. And I'll read some of these pieces to you, and it was like, I don't like the sound of that. That sucks. So he says this: men imagine that thoughts can be kept secret. Men imagine that thought can be kept secret, but it cannot. It rapidly crystallizes into habits. And habit solidifies into circumstances. So he goes on to give a heap of examples. I'll just give you a few of the things here. Thoughts of fear, doubt, and indecision crystallize into weak, unmanly, and irresolute habits, which solidify into circumstances of failure and slavish dependence. On the other hand, beautiful thoughts of all kinds crystallize into habits of grace and kindliness, which solidify into genial and sunny circumstances. Thoughts of courage, self-reliance, and decision crystallize into manly habits, which solidify into circumstances of success and freedom. And so you might look at that, but then it wasn't the positive things that got me. It was the fact that I had to admit that although I would have thought that I was a positive thinker, obviously based on what had crystallized in my life at the time when I first read the book, my balance of thoughts were obviously negative in some way. Okay? Because I wasn't happy at what they'd crystallized into. And I really liked the way he put that, where he sort of said that men imagine that thought can be kept secret, but it cannot. Thought rapidly crystallizes into habit. Habit solidifies into circumstances. So if your circumstances aren't what you like, then your thoughts have crystallized into habits, and your habits have solidified those circumstances. So you are to blame for the circumstances. Did I say that? But you're also in control. You can change that because your circumstances may be uncongenial, but they will not long remain so if you but perceive an ideal and strive to reach. And I want to come back to those comments. So I had to admit for myself when I first read the book that my entire outlook had to change. It would have been easier to stay on the same path. I had health issues. I was dissatisfied with a lot of things that were going on in my life. I thought I was a positive thinker. I thought I was doing all the right things. I thought I had the right habits. But my circumstances were uncongenial. Not everything, but there were things I was dissatisfied with, and so therefore thought can make changes there. So my thoughts had obviously crystallized into dissatisfying circumstances. So what does that mean? What does it mean when we look at your circumstances may be uncongenial, but they will not long remain so if you can perceive an ideal and strive to reach it? So that means perceive an ideal. If you can come up with a dream, something that inspires you, that and just keep it in mind. And Wallace Wattles, author of The Science of Getting Rich, said that if you just spend your leisure time as much as you can holding the vision of what you want without the doubts coming in, then it will eventually begin to manifest along the established lines of business and commerce, he says. So that's in alignment with what James Allen said. And so your circumstances will improve if you can but come up with a dream and then strive to reach it. Now, strive to reach it. So in other words, move towards it without angst and stress and struggle and worry and fear and doubt, but strive to reach it. So it's not saying that you don't have to do anything. It's not saying that the law of attraction means that you just come up with the picture and do nothing. But if you can but perceive the ideal that you want and then strive to achieve it. Okay, so come up with a dream, come up with a plan, put into some discipline action. So that's why I like to say the basic 3 ingredients is a dream and a plan, some excitement, enthusiasm, and some discipline and inspired action. It's just that simple, really. So for me, when I read that, the change was sort of slow. I didn't feel the path was clear. But it was clear that I needed to work on my mindset originally. And so, but as I progressed and sort of really contemplated all this, reread the book, my goals and dreams became bigger, ambitions improved, health improved, and all of that sort of thing. So, Let a man radically alter his thoughts, and he will be astonished at the rapid transformation it will effect in the material conditions of his life, the things around you. So if you want to make some changes, let you radically alter your thoughts. So if you're ready for some change, here are some things that might help you craft a more positive mindset. At least change your vibration, elevate your vibration. Number one is to seek some positive friends. So a negative social circle is not going to foster great thinking. A positive social circle will support your dreams, and so obviously being, choosy with who you spend most time with. So find people who you value and who reflect the values you want to adopt. Join groups online, join networking clubs or social events that are focused on positive change and positive outreach, and that have a generally positive feel to them. It's going to become easier for you to connect with more positive people when you do that. Now, I'm not suggesting that you ditch all your friends and family that might be negative, but if you're going through a hard time and you need support, then you want those relationships with people that know and care about you, but you may not want to go as often and stay as long, because if that just brings you down, then that's not going to be positive for you. So really be careful about your social circle when you're getting yourself out of a rut, and making changes is important. So please don't, I'm not suggesting that you give up your negative friends or whatever, but just to understand what they're doing to you, and maybe limit that time, or only go when you're feeling particularly strong and can withstand that negativity, and then make sure you've got some plans to reboot your thinking afterwards. So I would say number two is to challenge your thinking. When old thinking comes up, when the old negatives come up, as they will, trying to ignore it doesn't really work. You need to challenge your beliefs and sort of, replace the negative thoughts with the positive ones. Okay, you just, if you're in a rut, you can't just get out of the rut. You've got to choose new thinking and think those new thoughts to dilute the old ones and dilute the old beliefs. So, like for example, if you say everything's too expensive, or I can't afford it and everything, or people suck, the world isn't a nice place. If you're stuck in that, you can't not think those thoughts. You've got to really replace those thoughts. If that's what you don't want, what can you do to change that? So rather than thinking everything's too expensive or I can't afford it, asking yourself the power questions, which we've dealt with in past episodes of the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. For example, the process of power questions, affirmations, even asking yourself, how can I afford it? There are people out there that can afford this. What could I do that could help me afford it? What could I do? Are there things I can do? And then take it to the affirmation, the power question, saying, tricking your mind. Why is everything working out so well for me right now? Why are things going so well? So I talked about that in the last session, where we can really trick our mind into really things are going well, and we progress on a whole new level of thinking. So challenge your thinking, challenge your words. Okay, be careful what you rapidly come up with in your mind, the rapid thoughts that come up, and the things that you repeatedly say. Just be very, very careful there. The next one is consume positive media. Consuming positive stuff every day can dilute this negative input. So this is anything that emphasizes more of a positive message, good things in life, an improvement, moving ahead, positive outcomes, helping you feel better about things. Immerse yourself in that personal growth content every day. It will change the thinking in your mind. It will change your self-dialogue, your self-talk, and really you can just encourage yourself to be more habitual in positive thinking. Okay, so learn more about that and see whether you can just sort of change your words, your thoughts, and consume positive media can help you do that. And I'll talk about the negative stuff in just a moment. But number 4 is to be involved in community outreach in some way. Volunteering or sharing the lessons that you learned, or mixing with positive people, finding ways to pay it forward, the lessons that you've learned in life, really makes such a huge impact, not on just the receiver, but you as the giver. Okay? It's essentially what our community is all about here in the Savvy team, really about having a community to tap in with, that where someone in the community is likely to be having a positive day at the time, and also being able to be involved in outreach, because when you're paying it forward, when you're thinking about helping other people, your own problems disappear a little bit. And that might mean doing something even more specific for yourself that cultivates gratitude, such as donating your time, volunteering in some way to help you mix in a different environment. But by focusing on how you can help someone else, you'll draw attention away from all of your woes. And it becomes easy to develop more of a positive mindset, really, when you think about, you take it away from yourself and think about how you can help others. Now, that's not to say, like we've been talking about having no energy in this particular show and being bogged in your own stuff, if, just like they say in the airlines, fit your own oxygen mask first before helping other people. If you're stuck in your stuff and you're really, and you're low in energy and everything, then just burning yourself out by trying to give more time to other people, that's not it. But it sometimes doesn't take much to be involved in giving to other people. So, but it certainly is energizing. I would abstain. Number 5, I would say, would be to abstain from the bad news. If you look at the media, just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. And now it's also on social media, not just TV and radio and all that sort of thing, but wars, murders, politics, all of that baggage doesn't add good stuff to our thinking. So switch it off. Okay? When you think about it, it makes sense for mainstream media to focus on all the bad news, because if most people are stuck in negative circumstances, then they relate to that. And so, but it doesn't make sense if you want to move forward in your life to sit there stewing over or joining activist groups to fight against all the negative things in life. It's because you don't get anywhere by fighting against. You really move towards. It's only by holding what you want. Circumstances may be uncongenial, but they will not long remain so if you can but perceive an ideal and strive to achieve it. Not if you can identify the problem and fight against it. Yet that's what most activist groups are doing, identifying the problem and fighting against it. So that's not what James Allen identified was the key to move forward. So abstain from the bad news. So, when you really think about it, it's like you don't want to watch air crash investigations before you're going on an overseas trip or whatever. And yet all these shows just draw you in. So anyway, number 6, write out your action plans and map out some ideas. This is more about looking at possibility thinking and changing your state and becoming more hopeful than actually making it happen. When you become more forward thinking, it's like that vision for the future pulls you into the future rather than you pushing yourself towards it. So write out, jot down ideas, maybe do those affirmations, really do that visualization, get connected with it. This is what Wallace Wattles, author of Science of Getting Rich, said, that with thought, what you want is brought to you, but with action, it is received by you. That's powerful if you understand that. It's your thinking that creates, as James Allen said, but then you strive to achieve it. That's the action. With action, it's received by you. And so, in other words, it's sort of like, you've got to do something. If you order a package online, it comes to you. But you've got to open the door and sign for it to receive it. So action is needed. And it's the same thing with all good things in life. In disciplined and inspired action. Sometimes we're going to need to do things that may be outside of our comfort zone, but if we want it, then we'll do it. It will seem like the next logical step. So this is all about writing out action plans and mapping out your ideas. But it's not about to-do lists that make you overwhelmed and everything. It's just because that crafting that vision draws you into the future and connects you with it. So if you don't know what the next steps are on that, then don't worry. Think about the first thing. Think, what's the next logical step? Take some action. Even if you make a mistake, the forward movement will make you feel better, make you feel more energized. When you set a goal, if you can do something towards its achievement, it energizes you along that process. So, all right, leads us to number 7, adopt a healthy lifestyle. Obviously, something we're big on here in the Savvy team. If you want a healthy life, you really want to support a healthier body and a healthier mind. So holistic wellness is so important, and that's what we're big on here in the Savvy team. So, and it sort of becomes a bit of a, as I mentioned earlier, a bit of a positive loop, that if you're thinking positive and you're doing things to support your underlying well-being, then you feel more energetic, and that helps you to change your mindset. And so it's a positive cycle that happens. And so, to give you an example for myself, it was during some of those struggles that bad health was also an obstacle for me. Adrenal burnout, liver issues, blood sugar problems, exhaustion. And so it wasn't, when you're in that, it's easy to be in negative thinking, like nothing's going to change. So you just have to think about, perceive the ideal, jot down some ideas, and move towards it. Don't neg out on yourself so that you take no action. What can you do? What's the next logical step? So I started to change my diet. I started to look at more of the things. I started to get the appropriate supplements. I started to do more of the personal growth work. And so slowly, my health started to improve, circumstances started to change, and it got to the point where my health was no longer an issue. So I understand if you're coming from I can't think positively because everything's no good in life, and you've got to start somewhere. Circumstances may be uncongenial, but they will not long remain so if you can perceive an ideal and strive to achieve it. So, look at how you sleep, how you eat, so change your diet. Look at the Free Eat Savvy diet. Maybe follow one of our action plans and get your health in order, and improve your lifestyle, adopt a healthy lifestyle, and your mindset's going to shift as part of that. Next one I would say is say thank you. The simple habit of cultivating a mindset of gratitude and appreciation makes all the difference. Just getting up in the morning. In our morning ritual, the first thing in the Be Savvy, Wake and Be Savvy morning ritual is to bask. And that's just before you get up and take on all the stresses of the day, just lie there and appreciate things. Even if it's as simple as, I like my comfortable bed. It's a good morning. Things are going to go really well for me today. It's great to live in such a quiet environment, or have a roof over my head, or anything. Cultivate the positive thoughts immediately upon waking. Get out on the right side of the bed, we could say. So, you could do a gratitude journal. You could send a thank you note to someone. When you send thank you notes, it doesn't only feel good for you, but the thank you note sort of creates goodwill. It creates a positive impact on the world too. So cultivate gratitude and appreciation. Sort of take your mind off the negative stuff and really look at what you can appreciate and be grateful for. Then that leads me to number 9, creating a morning routine or ritual. And we use the Be Savvy, Wake and Be Savvy. So bask, exercise, scribe, affirm, visualize, check your vibration, and say yes is what that's all about. So just message us if you want that ritual, and we go through all of that. We have a download that covers all of that. But a great way to start the day is by making a mental list of what you're looking forward to, what you appreciate in life, about things that can create an anticipatory feeling, a feeling of that's really drawing you into the future, creates momentum for the day, not just all of the difficult tasks you got to get done for the day. Okay, every morning reading something positive, listening to audiobooks, starting by focusing on positive messages, can really set you up for a more powerful and energetic day. Number 10 would be to write a wins checklist. maybe even also historically look at the things that you've been good at in life. So if you've started on a good note, it's good to finish. If you started with a morning ritual, it's good to finish by thinking about, your wins for the day, things that went well. Focus on the positive. Often what we do at the end of the day is focus on what we didn't get done in the day rather than what we achieved. Pat yourself on the back. Create a wins list. It doesn't have to be monumental. It doesn't have to be a major thing, but focus on what you got done. Yes, when we're looking at tracking our results, then tracking your, the things that you didn't get done or your losses can help you to look for improvements. But, often that's the stuff that will zap you. If you just focus on what went wrong, then you don't have that positive momentum. And sometimes if you feel like everything's going wrong, looking at the things in the past that have been successful, we've done this in many successful for you or that you've been good at. It may be simply if you're a parent and, everything's on top of you or whatever, thinking about the fact that you managed to raise the kids and get past things like and pat yourself on the back. Sometimes people have said, I managed to start a business from scratch. Sometimes it's like I managed to do this. I went, I was insecure and not very confident, yet I traveled and did all of this sort of thing. Just focusing on some of the things that you've done in your past that you're pleased about, that you're proud about. Then, I completed my degree. I did this and everything. Because it fosters the fact that you've done things in the past and you can do it again. And then you can move yourself into more of a like, if I've done that, I can do this. Okay, so a wins checklist or even looking at the things that you've done in the past can really shift your mindset, and doing any of these things or all of these things can really create momentum and forward movement towards the life that you've really, really dreamed about, really. So circumstances may be uncongenial, but they will not long remain so if you can perceive an ideal and strive to achieve it. And remember that other quote, I'll give it to you here from James Allen, where he said, let you radically alter your thoughts starting today, and you will be astonished at the rapid transformation that will happen in your life. So that's why it's so important to be savvy. So we would love to know whether you have had any particular inspirations or insights from this particular show. Love to hear your thoughts. Love to hear any success stories as well. And of course, remember, request an invite into our community if you're not already involved, and fill out the How Can We Help survey. So if you've had any ideas and action plans and thoughts about what you can do to improve your health and vitality or your money and lifestyle, then, jot them down, think about them, and we're definitely here to help you. So, I think that's about it for the show. Thank you for being with us here for the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. If you're joining us and you're actually a member of our wellness community already or part of the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise private Facebook group, we're going to be doing a follow-on session in that group. And so if you're watching the replay or listening to the audio version, then of course just reach out and we can make sure you have access to it. But we access to the group. But we're about to jump on in and do a follow-up session that, as part of our Community Connect series, really dealing with some more specifics that we use and recommend here for energy, vitality, and for really, getting on top of the things related to what we covered in the healthy section of the show. But look, congratulations for being with us. Great to have you here. Love to hear your thoughts and insights. So Corey Sievers here with the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show, encouraging you to be savvy. So until next time, all the best. We'll catch you again soon.